Get back right now! This is your final warning!
Hey,
I am within my rights to be here, officer.
Exactly how she preferred to move when she left the bench. Blue and red lights bloomed across the street. A cruiser rolled to the curb, tires hissing on wet pavement. She kept walking. Stop! The voice snapped through the rain. Sharp, impatient, practiced in casual authority. Officer Kellen Ward stepped into her path. Palm raised, flashlight cutting a hard beam across her face. His jaw was tight, his eyes scanning her like she was a threat, not a woman heading home from work. "You don't belong around here this late," he said. "Neighborhood's got enough trouble without strangers wondering." Heat pricked Amora's neck. She stayed still, controlled. Decades of professionalism coiled behind her breath. "I'm heading to my car," she said. Ward snorted. "Right, because people like you drive cars like that." His flashlight flicked to her black sedan, then back to her. "Show ID." "Oh, don't, and we handle this another way." A tremor went through her, quiet and razor-edged. "Not again. Not tonight." Her fingers brushed the inside pocket of her coat, the place where her Supreme Court credentials rested. The one thing that would end this instantly. Before she could reach it, Ward's hand dropped to his holster. "Don't move," he said, and the metallic click that followed hollowed the air around her. Cliffhanger. Rain slicked the courthouse steps, turning each marble tile into a cold mirror. Just as Amora pierced paws under the awning, the weight of the night session pressing behind her ribs. She was still in her dark coat, badge tucked away, anonymity intact, exactly how she preferred to move when she left the bench. Blue and red lights bloomed across the street. A cruiser rolled to the curb, tires hissing on wet pavement. She kept walking. "Stop!" The voice snapped through the rain. Sharp, impatient, practiced in casual authority. Officer Kellen Ward stepped into her path. Palm raised, flashlight cutting a hard beam across her face. His jaw was tight, his eyes scanning her like she was a threat, not a woman heading home from work. "You don't belong around here this late," he said. "Neighborhood's got enough trouble without strangers wondering." Heat pricked Amora's neck. She stayed still, controlled. Decades of professionalism coiled behind her breath. "I'm heading to my car," she said. Ward snorted. "Right, because people like you drive cars like that." His flashlight flicked to her black sedan, then back to her. "Show ID." "Oh, don't, and we handle this another way." A tremor went through her, quiet and razor-edged. "Not again. Not tonight." Her fingers brushed the inside pocket of her coat, the place where her Supreme Court credentials rested. The one thing that would end this instantly. Before she could reach it, Ward's hand dropped to his holster. "Don't move," he said, and the metallic click that followed hollowed the air around her. Cliffhanger. Rain sheeted down the windshield of the approaching patrol car, its siren fading as it rolled to a stop behind Ward's cruiser. Amora stood rigid beside her sedan, wristbound, water sliding down her cheeks like cold fingerprints. Ward hovered close, one hand on his belt, the other gripping his radio as though the device confirmed his authority. Officer Lena Briggs stepped out, ponytail soaked instantly. Her eyes swept the scene. Amora cuffed, Ward tense, the street otherwise quiet. "What's going on?" Briggs asked. Ward didn't hesitate. Loiterer, non-compliant, acting suspicious around the courthouse entrance. Briggs looked at Amora again, her posture steady, her clothes immaculate beneath the rain, her gaze fixed forward with controlled calm that didn't match Ward's description. "Suspicious how?" Ward scoffed. "Refused ID. Refused bag search. You know the drill." Briggs stepped closer to Amora. "Did he explain the reason for detaining you?" Amora's voice was low, steady. "He demanded compliance without cause." Ward cut in. "She's twisting it. What's the attitude?" Briggs frowned. Something in Amora's cadence, precise, measured, didn't fit the profile Ward wanted to paint. "Do you have identification on you?" "Yes." Ward barked. She refused to show it. Amora turned her head slightly. He approached with accusation, not inquiry. Briggs's jaw flexed. She knew Ward's style, brash, impatient, always certain. "Let's just verify and move on," she said, reaching gently toward Amora. "I'll remove the cuffs." Ward stepped between them. "No. Procedure says." "Procedure?" Briggs stared at him. "For what documented offense?" Ward stiffened. "Detaining for investigation. She was near a federal building after hours." "That's not a crime," Briggs replied. Ward didn't budge. "It is when it looks wrong." Amora flinched at the phrase. Looks wrong. The rain seemed louder now, drumming against metal and pavement like a warning. A man across the street lifted his phone, recording quietly under an awning. Another paused under a bus stop, doing the same. Briggs noticed. "Ward, cameras are on." He shrugged. "Let them film." Briggs hesitated, then reached for Amora's cuffs. "I'm taking these off." Ward's hand shot out. "I said no." Amora lifted her chin. "Enough." Her patient snapped, not loudly, not dramatically, but with surgical precision. "Officer Ward, you will step aside." Ward smirked. "Oh, what? You think raising your voice changes your status? You're nobody out here." The word sliced deeper than he knew. Amora inhaled once. "Steady. My name is Justice Amora Pierce. I sit on the United States Supreme Court." Everything froze. Briggs blinked hard, processing. Ward laughed, short, disbelieving. Then he saw the certainty in Amora's eyes and the disbelief drain from his face. "You're joking," he muttered, but the tremor in his voice exposed a fracture. Amora nodded toward her coat pocket. "My credentials are inside. If Officer Briggs removes the cuffs, I will retrieve them." Briggs moved instantly, key twisting in the lock. The cuffs opened with a metallic snap. Amora exhaled as she rubbed her wrists, pale marks blooming beneath the street lights. Ward stepped back, face draining color. This is ridiculous. You can't expect me to believe." Amora opened her badge wallet, holding the insignia toward Briggs, who straightened sharply. "It's real," she whispered. Ward swallowed. No, she's playing this. This is..." Briggs snapped. "Kellen, stop." Ward's radio crackled again, dispatch asking for a status update. He didn't answer. Amora closed the badge. "You detained a sitting justice without cause. You escalated without justification. You used racially coded language and falsified an initial report." Ward shook his head violently. "I followed protocol." "Your protocol?" Amora said. "Or your prejudice." His mouth opened, but no words formed. Rain hammered the pavement, drowning his silence. Briggs stepped forward. "Justice Pierce, I'm notifying Internal Affairs immediately." Ward jolted. "What? No, that's not necessary." "It is," Briggs said flatly. Amora took a slow breath, the air sharp with the smell of ozone and wet asphalt. Her hands still trembled slightly, though she kept them pressed at her sides. Ward pointed at her, desperation replacing arrogance. "This is going to blow up. You know that, right? People like you." Briggs snapped. "Enough." Ward's jaw clenched, but he stopped. Amora turned toward her car. "I'll leave you to your reports." Ward spat. "You're really pulling the car tonight, aren't you?" Amora paused, rain dripping from her hair, her voice quiet but cutting. "I don't need a card. I have the truth." She opened her car door, stepped inside, and shut it with a soft thud that echoed louder than Ward's words ever had. The engine started. The wipers swept across the windshield. Through the glass, she saw Ward arguing with Briggs, panic overtaking his expression. Amora drove away, wrists still burning, breath unsteady. The storm was only beginning. The precinct lights buzzed with a low, electric hum, the kind that seeped into the walls and settled under the skin. Officer Kellen Ward sat at his desk, uniform damp, jaw tight, eyes locked on the blank incident report glowing on his monitor. The cursor blinked like an accusation. He cracked his knuckles once. Then again, he began typing. Subject exhibited hostile behavior, refused lawful commands, attempted to conceal identity. Each line was deliberate, crafted, defensive. He wrote fast, rewriting reality before it solidified. His breath hitched as he typed her name, Justice Amora Pierce, then deleted it instantly. Too risky. He replaced it with female suspect, approximate 30s. Behind him, conversations dipped into murmurs. The story had already begun to leak through the building. Briggs calling internal affairs, dispatch forwarding notes, whispers sliding across shared desks like spilled ink. Ward kept typing. Across the city, Amora sat at a dining table, a cup of untouched tea cooling beside a stack of documents. The night press against her windows, heavy and intrusive. Her wrists still bore faint red marks, reminders she tried not to look at. Her phone buzzed. Justice Pierce. Her assistant's voice came through, tense. Local news as a clip. Supreme Court justice involved in confrontation with police. It's vague, but it's out. She closed her eyes. That was inevitable. You want me to prepare a statement? Not yet, she said. Facts first. Across the precinct, Briggs approached Ward's desk. Internal Affairs wants the footage uploaded now. Ward stiffened. I'm finishing the report. They asked for the footage. Ward saved the document and stood. Fine. As he moved past her, Briggs lowered her voice. Kellen, the moment you show that badge, this stopped being something you can spin. He shot her a look sharp enough to cut. I didn't escalate. She did. Briggs didn't respond. She watched him disappear into the hallway. Inside the upload room, Ward plugged in his body cam. The footage tab blinked. 2 hours, 13 minutes recorded. He hovered over the incident timestamp, pulse pounding. The audio of his own voice, condescending, sharp, unmistakably biased, waited inside the device like a bomb. He uploaded it anyway. He had no choice. Meanwhile, Amora drafted her formal complaint with meticulous clarity. Every detail documented. Every escalation noted. She reread the line. Officer Ward initiated contact without reasonable suspicion. It looked sterile on paper compared to the humiliation in her chest. Her phone buzzed again. An alert. A commentator had tweeted, "Why is a justice wandering around federal buildings at night? Suspicious behavior gets consequences." Hundreds of replies agreed. Amora's stomach tightened. By morning, headlines rolled across the city. Supreme Court justice wrongfully detained. Police union defends officer. Questions conduct of justice. Body cam footage under review. Ward's union rep cornered him in the precinct hallway. Stick to the report. Don't deviate. We'll frame this as a misunderstanding. Ward nodded, but fear crawled up his spine. She'll use her position. They all do. His rep stared at him. What's your language? Ward didn't. She made me look stupid. You did that yourself. Briggs said quietly from behind him. Ward glared at her, but she didn't flinch. Back at home, Amora closed her laptop and pressed her palms against her eyes. A migraine throbbed at the base of her skull. Years of restraint, professionalism, and composure felt thinner tonight. Fragile. She whispered to the silence, "It's happening again." And she braced herself for the storm the truth always summoned. Morning light filtered through the blinds of Amora's office, thin and brittle, like it didn't want to touch anything. She sat at her desk, reviewing the preliminary notice, internal affairs hearing scheduled, 48 hours. The words felt clinical, detached from the humiliation that birthed them. A knock sounded. Her mentor, Justice Raymond Holt, stepped inside, silver-haired, slow-moving, deliberate in every expression. He closed the door quietly. I heard about the footage request. Amora nodded. It won't be pretty. It never is, he replied, lowering himself into the chair across from her. You prepared? Prepared, she said, and exhausted. Holt studied her face. They'll make this political. It already is. He exhaled. Then speak cleanly. Emotion will be used against you. Amora didn't argue. She had lived that truth long before wearing the robe. Across town, Ward sat in the locker room, tying and readying his boots. Briggs leaned against the opposite bench, arms crossed. You're going to the preliminary. Ward scoffed. They're not putting me on trial. It's just a review. Then why do you look like you're about to be sentenced? He tied the knot harder. Because she's got power. Briggs shook her head. This isn't about her power. Ward barked a humorless laugh. Everything's about power. His phone buzzed. A text from his union rep. Stick to your story. Don't acknowledge bias. Department will handle PR. Ward slammed his locker shut. At the department headquarters, a cluster of reporters hovered at the entrance, cameras ready. As Briggs and Ward walked in, a shouted question cut through the air. Officer Ward, do you believe racial bias affected your actions? Ward didn't stop. No comment. Inside her chambers, Amora watched the same moment unfold on the news. Ward's clipped voice, his stiff jaw, his refusal to engage. She muted the TV, staring instead at her written statement. She revised one sentence, then another, tightening each line like pulling thread through cloth. A soft knock. Her clerk, Denise, poked her head in. Justice Pierce, more leaked excerpts. Amora took the tablet. The body cam audio had been transcribed, not yet released but already circulating among staff. People like you don't belong out here. The phrase hit harder in text, cold, undeniable, stripped of tone and context. Denise watched her. You okay? No, Amora said, but I'll be ready. Later that afternoon, Briggs stood alone in the break room, gripping a cup of stale coffee. She replayed the stop in her mind, Amora's controlled voice, Ward's escalating hostility. The memory gnawed at her. She whispered to herself, he crossed a line. Saying it out loud made it real. Ward entered behind her. You talking to yourself now? Thinking, she said. Don't overthink, Ward replied. This ends if we stick together. Briggs stared at him. I'm not covering for you. Ward froze. I didn't ask you to. You didn't have to, she said. Briggs left him standing alone. As night settled, Amora reviewed her testimony one last time. Each word balanced precision with pressure, truth against backlash. She straightened her back, easing the tension in her shoulders. Her phone buzzed again. An email from Internal Affairs, all bodycam audio to be formally submitted tomorrow. Board to review prior to hearing. She closed the message. The storm outside thickened. The storm inside the department brewed. The storm surrounding her name grew louder. And with a hearing only hours away, every lie, every truth, every recorded second was about to collide. The city woke to headlines that splintered the morning like broken glass. Supreme Court Justice wrongfully detained by local officer, bodycam footage released. Police misconduct. Amora read each article in her office, the tablet cold against her hands. Screenshots of tweets scrolled endlessly. Support, disbelief, criticism. Every word dissected her. Her credentials, her right to walk the streets without assumption of guilt. Ward watched the same news on his tablet in his apartment. His knuckles whitened as each clip replayed, the flashlight's beam on her face, his words sharp and dismissive, the cuffs clicking over her wrists. The playback was relentless. The evidence was undeniable. His world constricted. Briggs arrived at IA early, shoulders tense, papers clutched like armor. She handed over her full account, emphasizing Ward's escalation, the verbal threats, the refusal to acknowledge authority. Her signature marked the way to complicity transformed into truth. Ward's phone rang repeatedly. Union rep, family, co-workers. He ignored them, eyes fixed on the newsfeed. Colleagues whispered in the precinct. Bodycam footage, previously sealed, had gone public through internal leaks. The department scrambled. Public trust teetered. Ward supervisors paced. Phone calls sharp, anxious. Damage control, one muttered. Prepare a statement. Contain it. Amora prepared her own statement. Short, precise. She emphasized procedure violations, bias, and systemic oversight. Her words weren't loud, but they carried an undeniable authority. She finished, reread once, and sent it to her press liaison. Ward's apartment phone rang. His mother's voice. Son, they're calling you on TV. Everyone's seeing it. I didn't do anything wrong, he spat. His reflection in the screen stared back, sweat on his brow, disbelief in his eyes. For the first time, he felt exposed, powerless. Briggs confronted him in the precinct hallway. It's public. Everyone sees it. The lies, the escalation, everything. Ward's voice trembled. This isn't over. They can't just. They already have, Briggs said, leaving him staring at the empty corridor, the weight of every misstep laid bare. Amora's office window framed the city skyline, lights glimmering through rain streaked glass. She exhaled, steadying herself. Victory wasn't haze yet. The law would move slowly, politically, mercilessly. But exposure had begun, the first fracture in the armor of power. And somewhere in the department, Ward realized for the first time that authority without accountability was a fragile illusion. Ward sat alone in the precinct briefing room, the hum of fluorescent lights pressing down. Outside, murmurs of the fallout drifted in from the hallways, reporters on speakerphones, calls from attorneys, whispers of departmental inquiries. Each sound amplified the panic coiling inside him. He pulled out his phone. Notifications piled up, texts from union representatives, colleagues, and strangers commenting on the news. Every message eroded the certainty he had clung to. Briggs approached, hesitant but firm. "You need to come clean about the escalation," she said. "The truth is already out. Hiding it won't save you." Ward shook his head, gripping the edge of the table. "You don't understand. She's someone else. I can't just admit it." Briggs's eyes narrowed. "You already admitted it in your actions. Every word, every gesture. They're on camera. Amora Pierce doesn't need me to testify for the truth to be seen." He swore under his breath, slamming his fist on the table. Papers shook. I'm done being made to look like a fool." Meanwhile, Amora met with her legal team. Each document, every excerpt from the body cam, every report Ward had filed, formed a meticulous web of evidence. Briggs's forthcoming testimony promised to solidify the pattern of misconduct. Amora's stomach churned, not from anticipation, but from the familiar weight of systemic bias surfacing yet again. She reflected quietly. The public would see the narrative clearly, but her own body still carried the subtle reminders: tight shoulders, tense hands, the ghost sting of humiliation. The personal cost of justice was never purely abstract. Ward's apartment became a pressure cooker. Calls from family and co-workers collided with breaking news alerts. Commentary questioning police integrity, the validity of internal oversight, and the role of racial bias. He realized his social world was fracturing. Neighbors avoided him. Friends called with cautious sympathy, tinged with judgment. Briggs observed silently from a precinct desk as Ward's panic deepened. She sent a private message to Amora's team, confirming she would testify fully. The leverage was shifting rapidly. At home, Amora stared at the rain streaking her window, the city blurred beyond. The storm outside mirrored the storm within the department. Every lie Ward had told, every act of bias, was now a pressure point ready to fracture his carefully constructed reality. She exhaled slowly. Justice was moving, but it always carried a cost. The disciplinary hearing room smelled of polished wood and stale coffee, a space designed to convey authority and consequence. Ward sat at one side, his uniform stiff, hands clasped so tightly his knuckles were white. Across from him, Amora Pierce entered with a legal team. Her gait was precise, measured, the weight of the Supreme Court badge invisible yet palpable. The board convened. 5 senior officials, faces a mix of skepticism and authority, reviewed the files before them. Ward's union rep whispered instructions, a constant hum of stick to the report, deny bias, project composure. The first moment of confrontation arrived. "Officer Ward," the board chair said, voice flat, "explain why Justice Pierce was detained on February 14th without cause." Ward swallowed. I was following protocol." She refused ID. Suspicious behavior near federal property. Amora's lawyer leaned forward. "Your Honor, may I?" The chair nodded. Officer Ward's report and bodycam footage directly contradict his statements. Here are timestamps showing escalation initiated by him, verbal aggression, and refusal to acknowledge lawful representation. The board reviewed clips silently. Ward's eyes flicked to the screen, the evidence undeniable. One member broke the pause. "Officer Briggs, your testimony." Briggs stood, voice trembling slightly. I witnessed Officer Ward approach Justice Pierce aggressively. She did not provoke him. When she identified herself, he continued to detain her unnecessarily. Ward's color drained. That's not true. She provoked me. Silence. The chair interjected. Amora leaned in, her voice calm, deliberate, unwavering. Officer Ward's actions reflect systemic bias, a pattern of escalation disproportionate to any reasonable suspicion. The body cam confirmed both verbal and physical misconduct. This was not an isolated misunderstanding. It was a calculated misuse of authority. Ward's jaw tightened. The union rep muttered under their breath, but the board's attention never wavered. Board members questioned Ward about past conduct, prior complaints, and adherence to protocol. Each response contradicted previous statements. The inconsistencies mounted. Amora remained seated, observing. She felt no triumph, only the tension of carrying truth in a room built to test it. After hours, the chair called for a recess. Ward stepped into the hallway, pale, shaking. Every colleague and bystanders gazed a mirror to his unraveling. Amora followed briefly, silent, poised, letting the weight of reality settle over him. The room emptied slowly. Outside, news crews filmed the courthouse, capturing the tension that had seeped from private deliberations into public scrutiny. Every lie Ward had told, every assumption he'd acted upon, had been dissected, questioned, and exposed. And still, Amora knew. The official judgment, the final reckoning, was yet to come. The disciplinary board reconvened, tension thick enough to cut. Ward entered first, shoulders square but trembling, as if carrying the weight of every misstep. Amora Pierce followed, her expression composed, voice steady, presence commanding despite the storm of attention surrounding her. The chair cleared their throat. After reviewing all testimony, body cam evidence, and Officer Ward's statements, this board delivers its judgment. Ward's throat tightened. Aye. Silence. The chair interrupted. The verdict was read aloud. Termination, referral to prosecutors for falsified reporting, and a series of departmental reforms to prevent future misconduct. A hush fell. Ward's hands gripped the table. His face blanched. The room seemed to tilt, every word echoing against walls of authority and accountability. Briggs exhaled quietly, relief shadowed by exhaustion. Amora's legal team maintained silent control, watching the unfolding scene. Ward's mouth opened, then closed, searching for an escape in the words he had already lost. This isn't fair. I was. Fair. Amora's voice was calm, precise. You detained a justice without cause. You falsified reports. You escalated a routine encounter into harassment. The board's ruling is not arbitrary. It reflects your actions and the consequences they demand. Ward's knees threatened to buckle. His union rep muttered beneath their breath. Useless now. Colleagues avoided eye contact. Even whispers of support were muted, swallowed by the weight of evidence. As Ward was escorted out, reporters shouted questions he could not answer. Cameras captured his expression. Panic, disbelief, the first real taste of personal accountability. Amora remained seated, still. No joy, no vengeance, just a measured, bitter understanding of the cost. Her wrists still tingled from the original cuffs. The emotional toll lingered. Justice had been served, but the scars of systemic abuse were slow to fade. Outside, the city lights reflected off wet streets. A crowd had gathered, drawn by the media frenzy. Phones lifted to film, voices murmured approval or outrage. Amora stepped out to face them briefly, a statement ready. Today, accountability was enforced. Tomorrow, the work continues. Justice is never simple. She returned inside, the echo of her words fading into the corridors. Ward's downfall was real, yet the system that had allowed his behavior still demanded vigilance. And as she turned back to her desk, the next case awaited, a reminder that the battle against bias and abuse never truly ends. Amora returned home that evening, the rain finally subsiding, leaving streets glistening under sodium lamps. The city felt quieter, though the tension lingered like smoke. She removed her coat and sat at the edge of her desk, the events of the past day pressing against her with both relief and exhaustion. Briggs appeared at the doorway, unannounced. "You okay?" she asked, cautious. Amora looked up. "I am, as much as one can be." Her hands unconsciously rubbed the still-fading red marks on her wrists. Thank you for doing the right thing. Briggs shrugged. I couldn't stay silent. Not this time. Amora nodded. Neither could I. The city beyond the window buzzed faintly, unaware of the personal cost behind the headlines. The department moved to implement reforms. Ward faced civil and legal consequences. The media coverage faded slowly, replaced by new stories, new conflicts. Justice had been served, but the emotional weight remained. She opened a folder of incoming cases, buyer's complaints, internal reviews, minor policy violations, another storm, another challenge. Every document reminded her that one victory did not end the systemic battle. Briggs lingered for a moment longer. You will handle it. I know you will. Amora allowed herself a faint smile. We handle it. Together or alone, we handle it. Briggs left quietly. Amora leaned back, staring at the ceiling. The apartment was silent except for the hum of the city. She reflected on the cost, humiliation, exhaustion, moments of fear. She thought of her own history, of countless others whose voices went unheard. The system had been challenged, a ripple sent through its structure, but vigilance remained necessary. Her phone buzzed. Another email, another case file. She exhaled. The fight was ongoing. She set her jaw, lifted her eyes, and returned to the work, resolute, composed, unyielding. Justice demanded endurance, and she would endure. The storm outside had passed. The storm inside continued, quiet but resolute, like the pulse of the city itself.